welcome to this edition of Inside the Academy Studio.
Today's conversation will be about Stephen Daldry's Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close. This film is based on the book by the same name by Jonathan Safran Foer, and it details the story of Oscar Schell, a boy who suffers great loss on 9/11 with the death of his father and the subsequent year or so that it takes for him to come to grips with it. It goes through him in a journey of trying to discover the meaning of a key that he found in his father's closet and the various people he meets and the various relationships he has and struggles he has with his family through that journey. Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close is a film that uses the lens of 9/11 to set the stage, but also the narrative devices of the journey and the search of finding something. So I asked my co-hosts, is this a journey ending for Oscar Schell, or is this a new journey beginning through his search for the key?
Well, it's most definitely has to be a new journey beginning, especially based on the ending of the movie alone. When he finally does make that relationship with his mother, and does kind of go forward from there.
So, but in many ways, it could also be the ending of his journey with his father, figuring out that last reconnaissance mission, the sixth borough. But then a great point is that it is the new journey with that he can have these adventures with his mother and with the renter. That's something that he thought he could not have other than with his father.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Oscar Schell, who's played by Thomas Horn. How do you view that character and the performance that Thomas Horn gave?
It was pretty. Like a child can always elevate their performance by playing somebody with on the autism spectrum disorder.
Well,
and he plays it well.
Well, he did mention Asperger's, and he was.
Well, maybe it wasn't exactly, but it was something along those lines.
Inconclusive findings, but yeah.
Yeah.
It is. You feel it's a role like.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
It's just like an adult can plays ugly.
Yeah.
If a child can play somebody with autism symptoms, it really shows how well they're an actor.
Beyond that, I think Thomas Horn really was able to, Asperger's, or some people are sometimes conceived as socially awkward, but obviously have a lot of high functioning attributes to them. And Thomas Horn is a kids Jeopardy champion. He won $30,000 in 2010, and Scott Rudin, the producer, actually noticed him there and had him audition for the role. So he definitely brought an intelligence to the role, and I think for his first time, it's a pretty admirable effort.
Yeah.
From first time to one of the great veterans in cinema and world cinema. Let's talk about Max von Sydow. Sydow has obviously done so many films associated with Ingmar Bergman in Sweden in the 50s, The Seventh Seal. Does a role that doesn't require any words. He's a mute by choice, using either writing stuff down or just using his hand with yes or no.
Yeah.
We know this season already in the Academy, they've highlighted The Artist, which has very little dialogue, and we have another performance like this.
Yes.
So how does Max von Sydow stack up to other performances and just the weight of his performance without talking?
Well, he does it well. I mean, what else could I add to that? You pretty much just said everything.
Yeah, I think especially when he enters, he becomes the sounding board for Oscar Schell's character. Somebody he can maybe relate to more like his father, but something, we get the discharge, all his feelings that we weren't getting maybe when he was just with his mother, when he was trying to keep things, or when he's working through his carding system and trying to find all the blacks. It was a chance for him to get all his weight off, and then Max von Sydow is so effective in taking that weight yet steering the story and self-discovery of the Oscar Shell character.
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah. I think one thing about the entire premise of the film that some people may find uneasy is the audience being exploited to feel for these characters because we're looking at it through the pain of 9/11, or do these characters merit our emotional response even if there was no 9/11? Would this story stand on its own if the child's father had been lost to a heart attack?
I think it has to be, if it wasn't 9/11, it had to be something similar to 9/11.
So
Like,
it had to be a traumatic event, but
like-
any loss can be traumatic.
Yeah, any loss can be traumatic, but I'm not saying, like, it didn't even have to be something big,
Yeah.
but, like, something, like, maybe, like, a mugger in the street or something, because they do mention it over and over.
The Batman story?
Yeah, well, Batman, yeah.
Right.
No, but the Oscar Shaw mentions a couple times in the movie that what really bothers him is that it's somebody that is, like, people that killed all these people, including his father, and they didn't even know them. That really bothers him the most.
Yeah, and then all the uncertainty, like anything that can happen, because if these people can do it without any other convictions, what will everybody else do? Let's mention that Oscar Shell, Thomas Horn, parents are played by Tom Hanks and Sandra Bullock, who are playing obviously supporting roles, but does it help the film to have these big stars and all their notoriety? I think they do a good job in being believable in these roles.
I think the point of all these stars was just to bring attention to Oscar's character played by
Thomas Horn.
Yeah, Thomas Horn. Yeah,
Right.
And Tom Hanks can play a believable dad in his sleep, and then I think Sandra Bullock's role was kind of intentionally to be, at least for the most of the movie, to be the distant mother. Anyway, so
right, until the discovery at the end.
It was serviceable. I wouldn't say the performances that hit them out of the park, but they helped.
They served the story.
They served the story. Yeah.
Okay. Let's go back to the job that Stephen Daldry did in directing. Stephen Daldry has become an Academy magnet, and obviously deserves some focus in the Academy studio on this episode. 4 films: Billy Elliot, The Hours, The Reader, and now Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close, have either got Best Picture nominations or a Best Director nomination. Talk about his job in telling the story.
Well, he tells it a bit differently than the book, from what I've read. I haven't read the book, but it seems like the movie exclusively focuses on Oscar's character,
right?
While the book had a parallel storyline, which it touched upon in the movie, with their grandparents and the bombings going on, the traumatic events they experienced during wartime in Germany.
Yeah.
So it paralleled those two, and really. And you do get a sense, but I think Max von Sydow's character does that well, and really pushing that even in just 2 scenes, he really talks about that.
Right.
Even though he doesn't.
Yeah, it was more. This is the film and the device as the director was trying to create that claustrophobic world that Oscar Shell has, and then how he tries to, Max von Sydow tries to help him escape that claustrophobic world.
Yeah.
We're nearing the end of this edition of Inside the Academy Studio. Like always, we like to end with questions. So I ask, what was your favorite moment in Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close?
My favorite moment is when he first sets out, to looking for the blacks.
Yeah.
When he goes through everything that really bothers him, and you can really get a sense of okay, how challenging it could be to be this character.
Yeah.
Just because of how he reacts to things.
My favorite moment would be Oscar Shell and his father having that oxymoron war while doing martial arts.
Oh yeah.
It's really funny, and it brought a lot of oxymorons to light. So I thought it was a really nice scene. Your least favorite moment?
My least favorite moment was probably when you do find out that her mother had planned everything out. I think that was too far a stretch. It tied it up too neatly at the end, and I'm always a critic of that, tying things up too neatly.
Right. My least favorite moment was more to the extent of some of the interactions are trying to go over. I know you have to cover 400, but I felt that I would have liked to see a bit more discovery. I know Viola Davis's black character was the main focus, but maybe more of the others.
Okay. Yeah.
As always, near the end, we like to talk about word association. So when you think extremely loud and incredibly close, what do you think?
Key. I mean, that's driving the entire movie. The key.
The key? And I think puns. Key and puns when we think of extremely loud and incredibly close. That is this edition of Inside the Academy Studio.
Thank you.